It's 59 seconds. All right, it's 6:59 seconds, close enough to 7 o'clock. I'm gonna call this meeting of the Dunbarton Board of Selectmen meeting to order for October 25th. All three.
November 1st.
November 1st, I was reading off the minutes, I stand corrected, for November 1st. And all three selectmen are present, recording secretary is present, town administrator is present. Recording for the public, for the benefit of citizens who cannot attend is Mr. Leo Martell. Thank you, Leo. Okay, gentlemen, I have some minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of October 25th, 2018, as amended.
Second.
All in any discussion on those minutes?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Oh, yeah, I got it right here for
Okay.
You gonna do the next one, Ron?
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the 8 PM non-public sealed minutes of October 25th, 2018, after they're sealed.
Any further, I'll second that. Any further discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, before we start down the agenda, I'm gonna open up for public comment. I'll start on this side.
Almost set.
No, that's sir, okay. And Leo?
No, thank you very
Okay.
much.
I'm gonna close public comment. Starting right on the first agenda item, we have a guest, Miss Candace Schaefer from Health Trust is gonna discuss with us, one of our major cost centers, the healthcare rates for 2019. Thank you for coming tonight.
And with me today is Krista Bouchard. She is your wellness advisor as well, so I want to make sure that she's good at this stuff.
As we call the wellness advisor is the way the employees can get a few dollars back if they do some proactive health.
Correct, yes.
Krista, how do you spell your last name?
B-O-U-C-H-A-R-D.
Bouchard, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As always, I brought you some packets.
We already heard the bad news.
Yes, I know, this renewal was not as favorable as we of course had hoped. Just to give you a little bit of background, we did see really favorable claims experience last fiscal year, when we were looking at fiscal year 17, which is what we saw last year, into the rates. Of course, they were good last year. This year, we did see that when we started to compare the claims for fiscal year 17 to fiscal year 18, claims had taken a sharp upward turn. We saw in your pool itself, or your rating unit as we call it, for all of the January renewals with under 50 employees, that group alone saw an increase in over 17% in claims alone. Thankfully, there are pooling features in place that allow part of that claim experience to go back out into the general health trust population and be absorbed by other groups as well. That's one of the pooling features we have. So some of the catastrophic claims were able to be removed, which is helpful, and that's what brought down your rate down to a 10.5. I don't know if you had any specific questions or if you wanted to jump right into the information that I had provided.
I had some questions regarding, probably what's in the pools, the pool we're in, the small 15 or under. What is the most common health plan that's selected? And the thing is, that was, a loaded question. Do they offer one or two, or do they, is it à la carte, they can pick any one they want?
Right. There's 8 plans that you can choose from. Right now. We are adding 2 more to that, so it'll be 10 total. All of the groups within that rating unit can choose any plan that they want. With that said, our most popular plan is the AB20 plan, and very closely being followed up by the AB site of service, so the Access Blue site of service plan with a $20 and $40 copay. That one is very quickly catching up where we're now like within 1,000 enrollees, so. Those are our two most popular plans at Health Trust,
So it'd be the two, 1 year and 1
A
year.
and D.
Yeah.
A and D, correct.
Okay.
You asked that
And-
question last year.
Well, the second question, as a corollary to that, is which, do they offer both or offer one?
I would have to look at all of the groups within the rating entity, and I can get back to you on that with more
Would you say,
specifics.
is it an acceptable business practice to offer, would say, employees, I wanna give them a choice of two?
Yes,
It's very much.
it's very common.
Okay,
Yes, it's very common, especially when you're dealing with some folks who might be paid at a higher scale and some folks who are paid on the lower scale, to give them an option whether they want more money in their paycheck and potentially more out-of-pocket exposure, to give them the choice between the two plans.
correct, okay. I'll let you continue. Those are some questions that I had right off the top.
Sure, great.
Thank you.
So I know that we've been here before, we have gone through these plans before, so I'll do a very brief overview though, just for consistency purposes. So all of the plans that you have here, it's a double-sided sheet. The first side with the green and the purple, these are all Access Blue plans, so that means they're on your current network, which is a New England-wide network. They can seek providers in all 6 of the New England states. They do have to select a primary care physician on any of these plans. The big difference between them is the copay structure as well as the introduction of the deductible. As you move across the sheet to the right, there is more and an increasing out-of-pocket exposure for the employee. That of course brings down the premium cost on the front end, so they're paying less out of their paycheck for these, but they are gonna potentially have more out-of-pocket exposure. The coverage itself is the same, and when I say that, I mean that if there's a surgery covered under your current plan, that same exact surgery is gonna be covered on any plans offered by Health Trust. The difference is what you're paying out of your pocket when you have the surgery. So as you go from your Access Blue 20 right now, which is what you have, column A, going to column B is when you're introducing a deductible. So this plan does bring down the copay slightly to $15, but introduces a $500 deductible per person on the plan, up to a combined max for a family of $1,500. And these are only for certain items, so things like inpatient hospitalization. If you went into the ER and you had some high-end radiology, for example, like MRIs, CAT scans, PET scans, things like that, those are gonna be subject to your deductible. But your regular run-of-the-mill items, like going to your doctor's office, are gonna be subject to your copayment. And getting your labs done, those are gonna be covered in full, those types of things.
Okay.
As you go over to the next column, column C, it just introduces even a higher deductible there, and it introduces a split copayment. So if you're going to a primary care physician, you're gonna pay a $15 copay, but if you're going to any specialist, you're gonna pay a $40 copay. Same deductible principles apply, where it's only applicable to certain items. Then when you go over to column D, the site of service plan, this introduces the same $1,000 deductible, but it's even more items are subject to the deductible. Now we're adding, in addition to your inpatient hospitalization, your high-end radiology, now we're also adding your x-rays and ultrasounds and labs. This plan does, however, introduce consumerism, where if you choose to be a savvy medical consumer and have those services done at a site of service provider, you can avoid your deductible entirely.
I know, so this plan, you actually have some co-pays actually drop,
Yes.
and so it kinda looks, you would expect it to go up, but it's
Right.
actually dropping.
Yes. We have made some enhancements to the site of service plan because it is very quickly becoming one of our most popular plans. It is almost our #1 plan at this point. We have made some enhancements to the plan, adding those additional services. Before, you could only, not for lack of a better term, shop or use a site of service location for labs and outpatient surgery. We've now added radiology to that, and that will be effective in January for our January groups. So you could seek out a site of service provider for that, for your x-rays and your ultrasounds as well. In addition, a lot of our specialty visits for things such as physical, speech and occupational therapy, cardiac rehab, and chiropractor used to be at the $40 copay, that's moving to the $20 copay starting in January. So it's just some additional enhancements that we've made on the plan, to make it a little bit more feasible for some folks to pick that plan if they choose to.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, please.
Where this is becoming a popular, push, I would say, to get people to shop around for site of service, how does that service get back to your primary care? If you've gone to this site of service for this, you've gone to this for chiropractor, and then you've now, something's still going on, whatever, and you have to see your primary care. How does that all tie in? Do they talk to each other? I mean, how would I know if, I guess it's not gonna embarrass me, but I've got a mammogram coming up scheduled, so I've shopped this out, and I'm gonna try to use that. But how does that information get back to my primary
Sure.
care?
Your primary care physician is always going to be the ordering physician. So, for example, for labs or for any type of radiology like MRIs or mammograms or things like that, the order is being given to you by your provider. And so, for labs, for example, if they give you the lab slip or they send the slip to the lab itself, the results are going to be sent back directly to your provider because your provider's name is on the top of the lab slip. It's the individual who actually ordered the test for you. So it's just like if they told you to go ahead to go down the hall to
Right.
have your labs drawn.
A lot of times
and
it's
then it goes
done
back.
electronically though, the labs.
Correct.
And so the thing is that, will these, site of services will have access to the same network to pick up the, order? Or will the
Yes.
I guess that's the question.
Yeah,
So when the
yeah.
results come in, it goes right back to the, ordering physician?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So for example, I'm on the site of service plan and I use Quest Diagnostics, which is a site of service location.
Yep.
I can also smart shop it, which is great. So my doctor will order my labs, whether it be a specialist that I'm going to or my regular primary care physician. They can send the lab request right to Quest, and then the results will go right back to my ordering
Now,
physician.
just so they understand, from my understanding, because I've got that app on my phone now, so I can totally on all the time, I can actually shop for any of these plans to try to do site of service, correct?
Smart shopper.
Smart shopper, which would then eventually, hopefully, keep the prices at a lower cost in the future.
And one more time about the standard deductible, do these, all these site of service plans, do that contribute towards the deductible?
You mean the copays or?
The standard deductible of 1,000 per individual and 3,000 for a family, and so does any of the labs count towards that?
The labs on the site of service plan, if you have them done at a non-site of service provider, would go toward your deductible.
Okay,
But if you have them at a site of service location, you don't pay anything.
okay,
It's covered in full by the plan.
okay. Otherwise, standard deductible, yeah, it's right in front of me, okay, thank you,
That's okay.
that's okay. All right.
And just very quickly, the plans that are on the back, I just wanted to include them. They are our true high deductible healthcare plans. These are the plans that we have that you could potentially pair with a health savings account. We've gotten more questions about these, so I just included them on the back for you. If you have specific questions about how those work, I'd be happy to go through them, but I know it's a far jump for your employees, so I won't spend too much time on those ones. There's no immediate questions for me. I can have Krista quickly go over the wellness updates if you'd like,
Just,
or,
the town administrator's been basically taking your price sheet and breaking it down into a spreadsheet with estimates, we have to look at all the
Gotcha.
costs. And so, this was step one. Step two is actually putting what our
Yes.
employees pay. Okay, I'll let you continue then. Gentlemen, any questions?
No, you asked a question I was gonna ask anyway.
Okay.
Lean, how many singles and how many families do we have actively using it?
So under,
It's on the spreadsheet.
It's on the
and that would be-
spreadsheet.
If you go to the summary sheet even, we have this summary sheet, Dave, that you actually put together. 2018, we had 9 employees, 1 family, 2 person, 2 singles, and 4 stipends. In 2019, we will have 10 employees, 1 family, 3 two-persons, 1 single, and 5 stipends. And that's also in the.
And the stipends are half the rate.
I'll list single person.
It's actually 50% of the town's portion of a single plan, so it's really a good deal for the town. If you look at column Q in any one of those sheets, which I broke down for A, B, C, and D, there's a potential savings of the town between 83,000 to 67,000, depending on the plan. And that's all because they are currently on a spouse plan. They don't need the second plan through the town. So to offer incentive to stay with the spouse, the town's opted to go with a 50% of the town's portion of a single. And there is 1 individual that's under a contract, and that's 2-person.
Okay, I'll let you, anything else, David?
Nope.
Okay. Continue, please.
Alright, so I'm just gonna go over a few of the wellness, updates. For the Slice of Life program, I know that we were here last year, we talked a little bit about that, it's this sheet right here. Not much has changed on that end, would you guys like me to go into detail with that, or you all
Just,
set?
oh no, quick overview.
Okay, so anybody that's on the medical, this program is for the enrollee and if they have a covered spouse. And it's a calendar year program, they can earn up to $475 in cash incentives, which is, the cash incentives come in the form of a check. And then there's another $100 in credit towards the purchase of a fitness device. The incentives are broken down, you can see them right on the sheet, the health assessment, $25. It's just a health questionnaire. Biometric screenings are $75. So this is, when you're getting your normal lab work through your PCP, you can do it that way as well. We hold regional screenings where you get your blood cholesterol, weight, BMI, all of those vital numbers, and we give you your $75. So you can do our regional screening, you can do it through a PCP, or
Would the PCP be a visit to the doctor?
So it would be, but if you're already going for your annual physical,
Right.
typically they make you do the blood work anyways.
Okay, so it's just combines it with another.
Correct.
Okay,
And then the third option is go to a convenient MD location, so there's one located right in Concord.
okay,
And that one would be no copay, so
Gotcha.
they could walk in, not pay anything.
great.
The next one down, we have health coaching incentives, so that's nice, that's up to $75 a year. Below that, you're gonna see the $100 towards the purchase of a fitness device or a smart scale. There are some free ones on our site, we're hoping to have more options next year for enrollees and their spouses to choose from. You have any questions up to that point?
No, it's good.
And then the last one is where you can earn the bulk of the money, so that's up to $300 a year. You can earn up to $75 per quarter for doing healthy activities. The most common way is to hook up a fitness device right to our portal, and enrollees can earn money for the everyday steps that they're taking. That's the most common one that we see. Then you can see the bulleted points underneath of how they can earn up to that 75.
Do all the, our employees get a packet like this for every employee?
We
Yes.
certainly can provide that, usually Lean has,
Yeah.
the packets, but.
Because this would be nice to, I mean, it's nice for us, but the thing is, this doesn't really help us, and we need to have for the employees, so they can see that
Right,
in writing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I hate to say it, but go to a webpage doesn't always seem, a handy piece of paper, it's a little bit better.
And we would love, part of our job too is we would love to come in and do an education session for the employees and meet with them.
Then we may put that on a potential, okay, agenda item.
So the next thing that do you have any other questions?
No, that was good.
before we go forward? Okay. The next thing I just wanted to touch upon for another way to earn some cash, is this Smart Shopper flyer right here. So with Smart Shopper, you can earn, cash incentive for going to cost-effective facilities in your area. And it's for any of the procedures that are on this sheet. We have added some new ones for this year. A lot of infusion therapies have been added. Basically what it is you can go online or you can call, say you need lab work done. It's gonna run a search from your home zip code and it's gonna do a 30-mile radius. The next list that'll pop up, there'll be a list of cost-effective facilities in your area. If you go to that most cost-effective facility, you'll earn the cash incentive. So sometimes it matches up with the site of service plan where, say, lab work, if you're going to a Quest, you're paying nothing. And then if you smart shop it ahead of time, you're earning a $25 incentive check. So it's just another way to put some money back into the enrollee's pocket by going to cost-effective faciliity.
What would be the $500 level? What do you have to get for that?
For the $500,
Yeah.
you probably need a hip replacement
Okay,
or
Back surgery.
it depends on the
They're not fun things.
Okay,
depends
Not
on the
worth it,
medical
trust me.
service.
okay. Oh, yeah, I see, okay, back surgery. Okay,
There's
very
a
good.
lot of common ones like x-rays, colonoscopies, mammograms, just very routine procedures.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want me to go over anything else?
Did you wanna do Solera?
There is one new program that we do have, free to enrollees if they qualify. And that is called Solera. So this is for anybody with pre-diabetes. And what the enrollee would do is they can go on our website and take a little quiz, it's a 5-question quiz. If they qualify, a health coach will then reach out to them for a 16-week free program to try to get them into healthier habits. It's then a once-a-month check-in for a full year. But this health coach gives them access to free Weight Watchers, tracking on a Fitbit, maybe a smart scale, anything to help them, if they have pre-diabetes. Help the prevention of type 2.
I want to say thank you as always.
Of course, thanks for having us.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it's the fun time of year when you have to make decisions.
Candice, can you get me some of these?
Absolutely,
Just
yeah,
little-
do you want full packets?
Just the,
Yeah, just
the
Just those two?
inserts and then this too. I think, did we get this in the mail recently?
I'm not sure, and I also have
online.
PDF versions of those too.
Okay.
If you want to do email blast, so I can send both.
Oh, that would be
Both
great.
do, yeah.
That would be great,
Mhm.
yeah.
That way we can. Okay. Gentlemen, any last questions? Bob? Okay.
Thank you for breaking it all down for us.
No problem. And if you have any more questions, I'm sure you can funnel those through me, she's got me on speed dial, so. Alright. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too. So I'll be in touch with the board's decision and then you'll send me a contract for us to sign.
Yes.
And this has to be a decision that's made before.
We have to, have a decision and make all the changes before November 27th.
This is homework for us this week, so I'm gonna ask, we'll make a decision next week on it.
Perfect.
Okay. So I think we'll.
That'll give us plenty of time.
We didn't have a discussion about it.
We can tonight, we have, already put it off, we'll get the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, we're gonna continue on. Write down the agenda item. We have, did you get some money from, Reach Across the
We
Dunbarton?
did, I've, put that in our cash box, and that's it was fundraised or a donation to the Reach Across Dunbarton
Okay,
for $50.
I need a motion, you want to,
I folded my agenda apparently. I'll make a motion per RSA 31:95-B, Roman numeral 3, paragraph B, to accept a donation from fundraising in the amount of $50,000 for Wreath Across Dunbarton.
How much?
$50.
Yeah, he said 50,000.
No,
Yeah, he did.
huh? No, he might have heard me mumbling.
What did he say?
I heard
$50.
$50,000.
$50.
Okay, and I'll second a motion for $50.
Unless you wanna donate some more.
I'm s-
Oh, that's over here, okay.
Any further discussion on the
That's what I was looking
$50 donation? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Bob, I'm gonna ask you to talk next about the,
I have some stuff for you guys in here.
yeah,
We gotta replay that tape, see what I actually said.
It's gonna be fun.
We do have, a department update, I didn't know if you wanted to go out of order at all, I
Yes,
didn't know how
sure.
long this was gonna take.
No, go ahead.
Come on up.
I'd say I'll be brief, but I doubt it. There's a lot to update you on. It's been busy. So, I wanted to tell you that Hope has completed her training with the Department of Motor Vehicles. She had a Driver Privacy Protection Act webinar, an online webinar that she did, or Moodle they call it. And also her municipal registration agent training, her certificates. You can pass them to Lean after for her personnel folder.
So she's certified.
She's certified and she can now work independently. She's got her own clerk username and ID. She's online with the state. And she's doing a wonderful job.
Glad to hear
Now,
that.
do we put a copy in our file and hang these on the wall in your
I
office?
made a copy to put in my, I did hang one on the wall. The privacy one we don't need to hang, but the one that shows she's certified as a municipal agent, I do.
Okay. So I don't mind if the colored one goes up there. You probably made a colored copy anyway.
She probably wants it for her records and her.
I made copies, so those
Oh,
are for
these are
you.
mine, okay, perfect.
So a few weeks ago, we talked about non-sufficient funds, the checks that had been returned, and the police department, I think Remy was here and talked about the procedure that they do. So Laura sent me the form that they use. I have not filled the form out. I'd like you folks to review it first and to make sure it's the direction you want to go. I made a copy for all of you.
Okay.
So this is what the PD does following up on bounce checks. And if you'd like to, and you don't have to make a decision tonight if you don't want to, you can talk about it later if you like, if that's more convenient. And whatever you decide to do, I can provide you with all the information on the form. I haven't had time to do a lot of reading on that because I've been away at a conference, and in case you didn't know, there's an election next week.
No, say it's not true.
I know.
I think this looks like, to me, the process we had agreed upon going through.
Yeah.
If you don't do this process, we're kind of just in limbo still, so.
Right, so I think the green light is, let's forthwith, make it, post haste, make it happen.
You have any issue
About
with that?
post-election.
No,
I
I
think
think
it's
we have
kinda-
to correct the actions, it doesn't become a little more, right now you have one person doing it.
But if we don't follow up with this, then it's gonna just continue, it looks like, so.
And since we're on it specifically this person, I don't know if the board has any policies. I know when this guy does eventually come in to cover these checks, we're gonna require cash. I'd like to know if the board would like me to require cash every single time from in
I think there's some
perpetuity.
writing in here to that reference.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, I
Haven't
seen.
had a chance to read it.
So once you read through this, it might solve some of those issues for you.
I know it'll be cash when he pays this time, but next year when he doesn't owe us, do you want cash from him from now on?
I don't think we
I,
can.
I don't, yeah, that's,
You don't
that's
know.
almost,
I think we start
that's almost a discrimination.
Yeah, start the process all over again, I
Okay.
think.
Alrighty,
Then it becomes a second offense.
Yeah.
okay. So the next
So,
thing is.
you understand, green light, you got full
I
consensus
wrote
with
green
us?
light on my note.
Okay, great.
Eleanor Swindlehurst, I'd like the board to please appoint her as a ballot clerk. So she can work Tuesday's election. She was, I believe, away last time around, and she wouldn't have been around to work the election anyway. She'd like to be reappointed. And if you could just hand the spelling of her name over there,
Do you have a, what side, what party was she in?
Republican. And the Secretary of State's office did discuss that at our conference. You do need to have a
A balance.
ballots. And they said, obviously sometimes it's hard, you have undeclared, you have, whatever, sometimes you just can't get the people. And they said you can only do the best you can do. However, if the Attorney General does inquire, we as election officials need to be prepared to show why we had to do it
So I'll
that
give you
way.
the spelling. then.
Because if it is questioned, it would come from the agent's office.
Thank you.
Nice.
This is just a continuation of what she's been doing in the past.
Right, exactly.
Anyhow,
But I clarified with them about the ballots, and even on ballot counters, as best we can, when we have our teams of two, it should be one of each whenever possible.
Sorry, we'll make a motion right now, so we can go forward quickly. Go ahead, Dave.
I'll make a motion to nominate Eleanor Swindlehurst as a ballot clerk with the term ending August 1st, 2020.
second,
Any further discussion on the motion, gentlemen? If not, all in favor?
I,
Oh, boy, now you're on board, Paul.
Mix it up a little bit.
How's it look like you're getting quite a few counters for Tuesday?
I've had 6 people volunteer so far,
Goes back to you.
so get your accountant mode ready,
Well, 6 people plus everybody that you're gonna hit up through the day, right?
and we'll all, yes, we will. But I'll get to that.
Okay.
I have a list. So last week was the town clerk workshop up in North Conway. Some years it's kind of quiet, it's just usual routine procedural changes, maybe a little update in legislation. Some years it's really hot, and some years it's quiet in some areas, hot in others. We generally hear from the Department of Motor Vehicles, from Registration and Title Bureau. They hold a little workshop for us. The Vital Records folks hold a workshop for us, as well as the Secretary of State for elections. So I wanted to give you some highlights from motor vehicle. They're phasing out, and this is a lot of computer talk, so bear with me. They're phasing out SSL, and they're going to P2P. And something about it requires a static IP address, which was over my head and over a lot of people's heads. I've asked them to provide us information that we in turn can pass on to True North Networks or our IT people.
It's a secure socket layer. It just makes it a little bit more secure as far as the network. It can't be hacked. It's an upgrade in security.
Okay, so just letting you know that this is what they're
Yeah.
gonna be requiring us to do, so.
I would encourage, it's probably gonna cost a few dollars more for that, but it's part of doing business.
And I know budget's coming up, so I just wanted
Yeah,
to
we
prep
may
you
wanna
that,
get that line.
right, you might
sooner
want
than later.
to,
Spec it out.
right, so Lean, I would imagine that's in your part, okay,
It's called P2P?
yes,
Okay.
going from SSL to P2P.
I believe it's peer-to-peer. Okay.
Okay. Something else from motor vehicle, the printers. We have 2 great big Lexmark printers. Motor vehicle's plan is to discontinue supporting the Lexmarks. They're gonna start their transition the end of June in 2019. But they plan to turn ownership of those printers over to the towns. They're gonna give them to us.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, it is. So, we have the option of keeping them, giving them back. If or we can replace them with something else. We can get rid of them entirely and replace them with something else.
At our cost.
At our cost, right. They're no longer gonna support any of that. Currently, they still have a maintenance contract for the Lexmark printers. So, after the elections calm down, we have until June, when their contract runs out, I'm going to put in a ticket and just have them come out and do a general maintenance on the 2 printers, because I have a
Before it
feeling,
runs out.
yeah, before their contract runs out.
Okay.
If we do replace the Lexmarks, they're gonna be very specific in their requirements on what we print registrations on,
And that'll be funded by,
us.
Us.
They're no longer, they got those Lexmarks, I believe they got those Lexmarks with a grant, and that's why we all got them.
I was hoping they could do a bulk purchase of a certain model they wanted. You know, sometimes when you buy in quantity,
Oh, I don't know if we have that option, but that's something that,
right? Because
Check out.
it's like the state vehicle contracts.
right, I don't know if
The
it can be.
bids, yeah.
But they, some of the things they talked about are what we're gonna need to have, should we get our own printers. It's gotta be laser versus inkjet, minimum of 2 print trays and a multi-purpose tray. The print quality should support 2-dimensional barcode. Windows 7 support is required. There are some towns that no longer use the Lexmarks. They've already gone ahead and gotten their own printers, and the ones they have, price range is $400 to $500 a piece, plus the cost of the additional trays. So my thought is, right now, the Lexworks seem to be working pretty well, so let's ride until the wheels fall off.
How many do you normally use, 2 or 1?
Well, mostly I've just had one, it's
Okay.
just been me, so eventually I'd like us, mostly we'll be using one,
Okay,
but Thursday evenings when it's busy, I can see us using two. That was the motor vehicle update.
Can
some
I
of
ask
you-
you something,
yeah,
Linda?
Sure.
If you're both working, won't the printer just store the information till the other one's printed?
Well, we have two, so we would work from each station. I could print from my station and the deputy could print
Currently,
from
we
her
have
station.
two,
Currently, we have two,
so most likely they both won't break at once anyway.
right. Right, one of them is a little bit noisy now, so,
So
that's
we
not.
could go
one
through
that's-
the process and maybe do one new one eventually and then another one later when it's needed. Okay.
Exactly, yeah, that would be my
So we can
thought.
break it up a little.
Yes.
Can
yeah,
I
would
get a list of
consider-
the printer information so that I can maybe just shop around and see what it would cost us?
Yeah, you could, they're supposed to send us specs, so
Oh,
I
okay.
just jotted a few notes on
Okay,
what they
gotcha.
were talking
Okay.
about. And I don't see this happening for several years.
Okay,
oh, so we get time on this?
Oh, we have
Oh,
time.
okay.
This is just giving you a
Okay.
heads up that, we don't have to replace them next year. They're gonna turn ownership over to us next
Gotcha,
year.
that's
So
first,
we
that's
can
step
get-
one.
Right, we can get several more years out of these and not even need to think about buying new purchase.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
you don't even need to shop right now.
okay, good,
Gotcha.
just didn't wanna,
Oh, I wanna ride them until they don't work anymore.
Do they
I
accept
would.
at least Windows 7?
Well, it's marked, yeah, I'm sure.
Then they must.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they do.
Windows 7's almost out the window,
I know, that's what I was,
I know, and I have that at home.
because
pretty soon they're gonna require.
my
about
hard
that,
drive
and
died
those probably
on
won't work.
Tuesday, and they had to restore my hard drive.
At
And-
home?
No,
Mine's-
here.
Oh, here. Mine at
Yeah,
home is
scrambling
starting to get a
Tuesday,
little
I'm not
funky.
happy.
Besides, the state agencies that routinely speak to us at the conference, they always have a few other things that relate to our jobs one way or another, helpful things. They had a workshop given by Corey McDonald Esquire, and that was called Reviewing Social Networking Sites and Ways to Limit Exposure for Individuals and Municipalities. So that was all on, the Facebook and all that. The last one, towards the end of the conference, was given by Brian Burford, the state archivist, and it was called Issues in Public Record Keeping. That one was a really wonderful workshop, and it is going to come in very handy when we finally get our municipal records committee up and running. So just to let you know that that's still something that we need to do as a town, and just information gathering for that. The other speaker at the conference, Secretary of State, that mostly dealt with election coverage and all the changes, and they're just, as you know, the election.
His election.
SB3, it was just, it's a lot. It was just so much that Dave Scanlon, the Deputy Secretary of State, had come up to the conference, and he almost immediately got called to go back to Concord to testify at an SB3 hearing. I mean, it's just up and down, it's hot, it's cold. And the general thing that most of the clerks said at the conference, and I heard it more than once, was, I can't wait till this election's over, because it's just a busy one. In their presentation at Secretary of State, I wanted to share something with you. We have what's called are you familiar with UACAVA? Those are the overseas citizens. They're either stationed overseas, they're working overseas, they're visiting overseas, and they're not here to get an absentee ballot. So they fill out a special form requesting an absentee ballot. This is a ballot that I can email to them. It's the only ballot that can be emailed, and they snail mail it back to me. Well, there are federal guidelines on sending these ballots, and we have what's called a 45-day deadline. So 45 days prior to Election Day, the clerk must be available between the hours of 3 and 5 to accept any last-minute requests for overseas for UACAVA ballots. I happen to be in Atlanta, Georgia on the 45th day, so I was not here. But I had asked you to check the mail, let me know if anything came in. I had my remote email, plus I had downloaded all the forms, so that in the event while I was in Georgia, I got a request, I could fulfill that request and meet the 45-day deadline. So they talked about that deadline for the state primary, and the entire state was in 100% compliance. For the general election, there were only 4 towns that were out of compliance. We were not one of them. So they were giving kudos to the town clerks for keeping on top of it. And one of the kudos went to the Dunbarton town clerk. It was up on their PowerPoint, stating that the Dunbarton town clerk was in Atlanta at an Atlanta Braves game when Anthony, that's the Assistant Secretary of State, called her to remind her to send out the ballots. She was checking her emails remotely and her office was monitored. So I wanted to share that with you, that even though I was cheering on the Braves, I still was
Kudos to you.
taking care of business.
Excellent.
So as far as the upcoming election on Tuesday, I think that's about all I've got. We did receive the ballots from the Secretary of State. They said that they had sent us 2,040. They really sent us 2,041. Rainy Hope and I counted them on Wednesday. They have been resealed and are secured. We're going to set up 4 o'clock on Monday, and I assume you all are taking care of that.
And so what he communicated to you, that he's got the people, because I did ask him last Friday.
He had mentioned that he was going to go talk to you and let you know.
Okay.
What the plan is this time is Hope can come in and cover for me, because I have to be here by law from 3 to 5 for any last minute requests for absentee ballots. Hope's going to come to the office shortly before 4. She'll take care of the absentee ballots, and I will go down and help with the setup, just to make sure everything's as it should be, and to lend an extra hand when needed. As far as ballot clerks go, Rainey and I talked about this on Wednesday. His goal is to have 4 ballot clerks in the morning, so the checklist will be split up. We'll have like A to K, L to Z. We'll have 2 lines coming in during the morning, which is always busy. And then midday, we'll just have 2 ballot clerks. And if it winds up being busy the entire day, we'll recruit you or Hope or Katie or somebody to fill in as another ballot clerk. And then end of the day, he wants to have 4 ballot clerks as we close out the day, because it will get busy again. I do still need to order the meals, because Rainey and I hadn't finalized the number of workers. I couldn't really get a number for Dave Constant. But I will take care of that. So far, 6 people have volunteered to count ballots. So recruit.
Now, you said you had a list. Did you guys contact the people that we had at the first voting?
I don't, it takes a lot of time to contact everybody, and it's been my experience, and Fred can tell you, I will go and I'll contact everybody and they say yes, and you count on them to come, and maybe they forgot or something comes at the last minute, and they have no way of getting to us to tell us, and sometimes they just flat out don't tell us, or they forget, so we don't know.
I think it worked out well, where as people went through, you could commit them right there as they went through the vote. Can you come back and?
We found that worked the best, is getting them as they come through. Is that a volunteer I heard?
Well, Randy already got me to volunteer.
He did.
Yeah, so yeah, obviously he didn't tell you.
We have 7 on the list of
Okay,
volunteers.
so you don't need any more if I'm helping, right?
That's right. Thanks, Lee. So we have 7 people.
I guess we could ask about the current, I just think it's kind of last minute for people. I thought maybe a heads up for at least the ones that generally come in and do it would be a good idea, but that's just me.
You got some regulars too, you got some people coming out, they know they're gonna be coming out,
Some people come through and they'll say, do you need help tonight?
right?
Yeah. So
That's very common.
It is very common. And the thing is for whoever's working the checklist to keep a list.
Because there would be a lot more counting, I would imagine.
Yeah, but it's not gonna, it won't be so segmented. It's a single ballot.
Yeah.
Right, it is a single ballot, so we don't have to
Oh, that's
worry
good.
about all that. But the turnout, I heard, somebody told me that they were predicting a 75% turnout.
You know, 70% about a week ago, this must
Was
be
it?
up a little bit, yeah.
So it's gonna be huge. And absentee ballots, I know sooner get the list updated and it's out of date, because I'm handing out absentee ballots like crazy. I'm up to about 90 right now that
For
have
this-
been issued. And that does not include the replacement ones for the the ballot that was incorrect. So I really issued the 90 plus those 40, but only officially 90. That is about all of my update.
Thank you.
By a lot.
Thanks for the update.
You are welcome. Thank you.
We'll see you Monday night, I guess.
You will. Brush the dust off my roller skates.
And I appreciate you working with Detective Laura, kind of bring it, so.
It was wonderful of her to say that, yeah.
And the thing is, she's, once you get her going on it, she won't
She's
stop
hound
until it's
dog, I
done,
know.
right? So I just
She
thought,
will.
that's a good thing, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next thing is Bob.
Yeah, Bob's gonna talk about,
There's two and there's one in case she wants on the end. I think I get the, I'm just giving away my color one.
It's right here, Bob, do you want the color?
No, that's all right, you can
I'll
add
take
one
the
to
color.
it. You can add one to it. On the
Color one
first,
feels a little thicker.
nicer paper.
More stuff in there or something.
if you notice on the first sheet, last year, remember we were looking
I
at,
can't notice anything on this sheet, I made
your
the
last
font.
well anyways, last year it came out to 2.7, well, I got 2.7%. So, within the 12 months. So, we were pretty much spot on when we did the raise last year.
How many percent did we do?
We did 2, I think.
2.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, so, it actually, I just printed this out, cause when I ran across it, that's your, yeah. This one is the CPI, the average CPIs over the past, it's put from 1970 to, they haven't got it for 2018 yet. And the CPI was 2.1, so you're pretty much close to what the CPI was.
Yeah, that's why we worked on the prior year's CPI, because we
Right.
never had the final numbers.
But the only thing wrong with this is these are unadjusted CPIs.
Okay.
So as I was telling you, they adjust it because they take rent out of it, they take fuel. So what's happening this year, and if you start with January on the third sheet, and you look at the average, we're using the average weekly wage increase, and it actually went down in January and in February, but then it went back up as you look towards the rest of the year. And it looks like you've got 3 other months coming. So it looks like it's gonna hit a little over 1%. So I don't know, this is just for, if you wanna take this home and look at it, we can make a decision on what we're gonna use, but, a point probably taken is, I'd like to know what the town's done at the school, what their wage increase was also, you know.
Oh,
just-
for,
The school got 3% last year, didn't they?
yeah, I think so.
Was it 3 or 2.5?
They got 3, I'm pretty sure, last year at the school.
Could we check just to find out,
Yep.
and get,
Yep,
just to
last
get a
year's.
mix?
Bob, this next page has the average for the industry.
That's the average wage, weekly wage increase in the in the private sector, because they don't have public sector. So that's off the Department of.
2.6.
So when you go from January towards September, and then you have 3 more months, usually, I think October will probably be their higher month, and then it kind of flattens till the end of the year. So I'm figuring it's probably gonna be under 2%, but a little over 1%
For the year.
for the year. Let's see, what's this one here?
So Bob, if you had to make a swag right now, what would you look at a recommended increase, or if any needed?
You wanna do 0.7?
No. You know, and that becomes
The
She likes
accounting,
making the numbers.
all right, in here for you guys is
the accounting on a percentage is difficult with an Excel spreadsheet.
and it actually, last year, the raise we gave our employees actually just kept them afloat with the cost of living increases, you know? And this year, with the inflation rate rather. And this year, the inflation rate's gonna be a little closer to 5%. So I don't think anybody that's looking at, you know, where their wages are going, are gonna come close to getting that kind of a raise, you know, in the private sector, so probably gonna happen that way in the public sector.
So what are you leaning towards, like 1% this year, or?
Well, I just wanna, you know, I wanna see what the school's done.
Now
And,
they go from June to July, so there'll be a little.
and actually, I'll get a better, it's too bad, we're doing this probably prematurely, cause October just got done, so we won't have the number till the end of November.
Mhm.
And we'll know what it is in October, and that's probably gonna be the higher rate, and then it flattens for November, December.
This
Would
is a
give us
little
a better-
premature.
Yeah.
I don't know that the board needs to,
No, there's no urgency to do it right now, but we got a flavor for it.
But I'm just giving you what direction it's going in, you can see that on that second sheet there, third sheet.
Between 1% and 2%, yeah.
And I have to tell you that, once again, with this administration, because it's happened before in a prior administration, Department of Labor's website is very hard to go through, to maneuver through. It's made it a little more difficult to try and extrapolate all this information. At one time, and I think you remember, Lean, you could go on there and right away you could pick out the CPI
oh, yeah,
monthly.
yeah. And then when they did an update on their website, it made it a
Well,
lot,
they just did it, it's even harder now to
yeah,
navigate through there and find what you wanna get.
yeah. So this is the chart that we used to use in the past.
Yeah,
Kind of fear. Bob, I like your idea of just running it by, I was just telling Dave, he just asked me how I felt about it, and the thing is, I'm leaning towards, 1 or 2%, how, your prediction, but the thing is, I don't wanna diss the few employees we have, I don't wanna diss them, I wanna make sure they get a competitive rate with, see what the school's doing, for example.
well, number one is if the school got 3%, it'd be a slap in the face to give them a 1% raise. We're struggling to hang on to people in some of the industries we have in town, you know. 1% would be a small amount, so at the very least you'd wanna do a 2% raise, which isn't gonna kill anybody. It's not a whole lot of money, you know,
No.
so,
When we look at the total expenses last year, it wasn't a big amount of money.
you know, it would,
But not to do it, I think.
Lean, can you just for, maybe next week or the following week, let us know what a 2% increase would cost us overall?
2 and 3. Well, just per percentage.
Well, yeah, just do it per percentage. So whatever 1% would cost, Lean, and then we can just do the math out, right?
Yep. Very easy. And
but I would like to get the numbers for October, just to see where we are. We might be right on line with the 2%.
Does it really matter if we have October's numbers?
It does, because it's one of the higher numbers in that total.
Yeah, but we can kind of see from your graph that you already have that it's gonna be somewhere between 1 and 2 on the whole year.
October might be like the 0.3,
Yeah.
so it brings you closer to that second more than the first, you know? Cause
Right.
then the next school will be flat.
But I don't think
November
I don't think we're talking the 1% anyway, so.
No, well,
I don't
cause
know
it
if
isn't a
much
whole lot,
matters.
it isn't a whole lot of money.
And
And in the past, we've kind of, they used the CPI, and the CPI was 0.7, 0.8, you know, and so you really didn't give anybody much of a raise. And so, in some parts of the town that we do business in, the employees see that they really aren't moving much with money, you know, they're not keeping up with inflation even, so.
thank you, Bob, for that information, it's good. Okay, moving on to more town mailbox items, I just wanna point out that next week, next week we're bringing in the department heads?
Yeah, they've all been notified via email and with a memo. So,
Okay, as a general rule, I'm kind of coming with some bullet points to talk, I'll share with you, probably an email this week. Just so, it's more of a philosophy, we wanna talk about, next week will be an interesting week, because we're gonna make a decision on healthcare, and we're gonna start thinking about, pay raise, but we don't have to, those don't necessarily have to be put out next week. But the thing is, this is more for guidance for, as we come to the year end. One of the biggest things I wanna bring up to the point is we have like the two chiefs, the fire chief and police chief, they have a tendency to be conservative with their budget, save the dollars towards the end of the year, and then go crazy if they have money towards the end, because they don't wanna end the year running out of money and begging for money at the end. And I understand that, but the thing is, talking with Lean, talking with Allison, what they need though, we have to create a law where if they order something, we have to get, not the receipt, but at least the order and the amount they ordered it for, so we can take that money and make sure it's attributed. Encumber it for 2018.
Yep, yep.
And that's the biggest point I wanna make with the department. I don't wanna say, don't spend money, I think that's only a little draconian, we don't have to be mean about it. But we just, if they do order something at the last minute, which the two, safety functions like to do, I have no problem with it, but give us an itemized list of what they're spending the money on.
Yeah, so what we've tried to communicate to the departments is that a cycle for a credit card purchase, if you have your purchase on the last day of that cycle, that purchase will actually not show up until 2 credit card statements, which could take you into the end of January and end of February. And
I saw those last year.
so it's extremely frustrating and very time consuming to make sure that what we're charging is in the appropriate year for spending.
It is a mix-up, cause I happen to be signing checks when you and Allison were going through this not too long ago.
Oh, yeah, it's a nightmare every month for.
So that's one of the big things I'll be pushing to department heads, and I think it's, and like even the transfer station in the past, they would buy, tires at the last year and and we had to kibosh a few things.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't wanna see purchases on December 29th, 30th, 31st, those are the days I don't wanna see major purchases.
Yeah.
But, and then as far as, departments, if they have anything that's, they have to start preparing warrants, if there's any hard item where they wanna do an improvement, equipment purchase, or something like that, I wanna identify warrants so we can run it by the board first to make sure we're gonna at least support them or not support them and get them in correctly. And, as far as, general, other fiscal guidance, I was gonna say is that just plan for a normal operating year, knowing that your equipment, maintain your equipment, maintain all the, day-to-day, salaries and all that kind of stuff, but I don't see any major guidance changes as far as increases. Gentlemen, do you wanna chime in, or you wanna give me anything?
Do you have any idea if we have any
What?
major expenses coming up?
Any departments have hit you with anything yet?
No,
Anybody
nothing,
say
not,
anything?
not, not anything out of the ordinary, it's just,
I'll work on my wording a little bit, but the thing is, I just wanna make sure that they identify it early, so in case it has to go for warrant, it's identified.
Yeah, I would think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And also, keep the wording in there, the flat budgets we love.
No, I thought it was the thing is, I thought the library, when they came in last year and they reduced the budget, that's what it's a love.
Yeah, till they went full time.
Okay, and that's all I'm gonna say about, for next week, so I'll prepare a few, my notes, and I'll send them emails, and I just want you guys to comment if you have anything.
So what you mean is we want level services.
That's right. Level or lower.
There you go. Okay, mailbox done, okay. One good piece of news, I have some more homework for everybody. Lean, I wanna have a public hearing on the DOD, response to Page's Corner. And that's gonna be, in 2 weeks. So we have enough time to notice for that, for this meeting?
So I think they give you a copy.
if I just post it on Hot Topics and
Okay, that'd be fine.
website.
I'd like to have this document also on the website so people can see it.
Yep, I can do that, I just got this today, so.
Yep.
So you want me to have a post a public hearing for the 15th of November?
If we could. Gentlemen, you in favor of that?
It would have to be the 15th or the 29th.
Either one's fine.
Okay. And the thing is,
On our regular,
Yeah, because the 22nd is Thanksgiving.
I'd have Sandra Berminar to be there to facilitate this
Okay.
presentation.
Should I confirm that he's available?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
15th?
And the thing is, I anticipate using a whiteboard so we can maybe the whiteboard over here so we can use it as a aid to show the public each option.
Do you wanna give, Chris the option of the 15th or the 29th?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
But I would like to have each presentation, it would be nice to have it, like, if there's 4 presentations, have one like a poster board or something that, it doesn't have to be very formalized, but so we can present something to the public and talk it through with a diagram. Diagrams are all,
I know they had that, color-coded intersection sheet. I don't know if we can remove some of the colors to,
I'll leave it to his imagination,
yeah.
but I don't wanna micromanage it, but the thing is, I think it'd be good to help present it.
Yeah, I think it would too. It shows the morning and the evening traffic is totally opposite of each other.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's a work in progress, we just wait, date to be confirmed down the road. He's also, as a corollary to that, you remember, he's still working with the Central Regional Planning Commission of the long-term plan. He's getting engineering quotes and all that kind of stuff, he's got an email on it, everyone's got a copy of that. And just, we have an email to, everyone got an email, just, inbox, there's one of our historical society, basically commented that, they liked the fact we kept, Norwell Way as Purgatory Pond.
Yeah, they like that we didn't change the name.
Yeah, and in fact, goes back, I think it was 81 years as Purgatory Pond Road,
Purgatory.
Purgatory.
And the road's added recently, but.
yeah.
Yeah,
It goes back quite a ways.
Yeah.
To the name of Purgatory Pond.
Yeah.
Because for a while, there wasn't much of a road there.
Lean also had a copy of that letter that went out, that's all set. Cost project.
The letter for what, Mike?
Letter about the, just to the town, budget committee hearing.
Oh.
That's right, yeah. And that was, this, just for the record, it was Donna Dunn, of the Historical Awareness Committee, she was glad that the selectmen voted the right way. The fraud awareness, there's, police department's doing another, in conjunction with the AARP, a fraud prevention awareness at the town library, at the public library, town library on December 18th.
Yep, it's already on the website.
Okay. See that?
It's on Tuesday, so you can attend if you want.
You want me to signature those up?
Yeah, sure.
I'll hand them over to Bob after.
Sure. All right. We have a vote for the leadership of the New Hampshire Municipal Association. Gentlemen, are you interested in running?
What is it?
Municipal Association, the NHMA. And we have one vote and we can vote on it. I after going to the meeting, I'm not really, interested in pursuing leadership, but if I'd like to share with you two, if you are interested in that. Bob? Dave, I think you've been nominated. Thing is, we're gonna have an annual meeting on November 14th, Wednesday, and
Mike, second.
I'll fold it, full year for that. I'll let the rest of those for
Okay.
signature though. I think since you went to that meeting, you ought to finish off this year.
means a year later, I get it. Okay. Not our priority right now.
Just so it doesn't go home with
Okay.
Mike.
Some of that's mine, I gotta come back, that's one that's mine, I gotta take it.
This is yours and that's for Bob.
Okay.
The rest of those are just for signature.
Geez, I feel like all my stuff's being, integrity.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, letter of resignation for one of our Dunbarton transfer station employees.
Now,
Exit interview was accomplished with Bob.
No,
We have to schedule it.
Okay, yeah, it's to be determined.
Yeah.
yes, that is.
Yeah.
Just to let you guys know, I did, go to the transfer station this Tuesday and spoke with Scott and asked him, if there was anything we did as a town to make him, leave this position, and he said it was just a conflict right now with his personal schedule, and the hours required there, and I asked him while I was there, if we reduced some of the hours required of him, if he would consider staying on with us, and he said that might be a possibility, and he said he would definitely come in and talk with us in reference to it.
Yep.
So the schedule down there was a little too heavy for him, I think, with his personal stuff, and he said that he would be willing to maybe come in at some limited hours, so I think
talked
even
to
an
him-
on-call basis would be great to keep them on
They're
call.
trained, so it's always nice to have someone to fall back on.
Right.
Yeah, not just that, on call for Saturdays or weekdays if somebody else calls in sick, it'd be great to have another person on there.
I talked to him Friday afternoon, and, I talked to him Tuesday, actually around 10:30 when I went through.
Yeah, I was probably right by you.
And, same thing, he did say if he gets some of the stuff resolved, that, you know, I said, you know, if you decide you wanna come back, I think we're all satisfied with the work you've done here, we'd be happy to have you back, and
Yeah,
he said that he probably would come back if, you know, that,
so even if he wants to stay on an on-call basis and we don't take him off the books, I don't know if we have a consensus on that, but I.
We have consent, I have no problem with that,
and actually you could bring that up in the,
exit interview.
exit interview, you know.
Yep.
Okay, other items in the inbox, just an interesting email from, transportation manager, I just wanna make sure everyone's aware of it and read it for me.
Yeah,
comment.
looks like he'll be leaving early. On an afternoon for an appointment, and also that he plans to burn the, burn pit at the transfer station
Yeah, he's asked me to post
November
that.
10th.
He's asked me to post that he will not be accepting, brush after the 10th.
Until he's gonna reopen on the 24th. Planning to reopen on the 24th.
That'd be appropriate, okay. The thing is, that there's also a thing, we needed to come in, he was looking at some proposals for brush disposal, because the energy committee has there are loggerheads, as you recall. Do we have a burn pit, or do we not have a burn pit?
I was really amazed, Mike, when I went down there, cause it had just been burned not too long ago, to realize how fast it fills up, I just.
Oh, yeah, I thought they just burnt it, it was full
I
again.
didn't realize it fills that fast from all the townspeople, I was amazed by it because it was just burnt not long ago.
So,
While he
that,
was on vacation, it was
Yeah,
burned.
yeah, that's right too, yeah.
Yep.
So I think it was half full when I went Tuesday, Bob,
I was Wednesday, it was pretty full.
so.
But that's gonna be it's gonna be a sticking point for any, I think, solar farm.
Until we have a solution for it,
Yeah,
yeah.
so, I just reminded one. Okay, I'm gonna, close the mailbox and open up for public comment again. I'll start with, Leo this time, no?
Almost said, thank
Sir?
you.
Yeah, while I'm sitting here enjoying this evening, I noticed that is the roof leaking in 3 places?
Bill's been there for a long time,
Did it?
Yeah,
but we did have the cap fixed last year, at the end of the year, Fred,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
they thought that it might have rained down some of
Yeah,
the
it's-
joists and
yeah.
caused that, so we did have some repair done.
Yeah, okay.
I haven't seen any new ones, but.
No.
You take talcum powder and put that up there, it'll disappear.
talcum powder?
That's what we used to do with fingerprints and stuff in ceiling tiles.
Oh, great,
Very good.
okay.
White talcum powder.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, brother. Must be flipping houses.
Okay, I have a I don't think we have the non-public tonight.
No, we don't.
I don't need a non-public tonight. Dave, you talked about Kelsey Road winter maintenance discussion. I think the road agent in on that.
Yep.
And, if you recall, the issue with Kelsey Road is still, Mike has put in an appeal to the Supreme Court. So it has not, it has not ended yet.
No, and that's why I wanted to discuss winter maintenance of Kelsey Road, because from what my attorney told me, this process is gonna be a year to 2-year process through Superior Court.
Okay, so it's gonna.
So it's gonna be through several winters, so we need to discuss where our town's trucks are gonna turn around during that period of time. Now, my attorney also told me that the decision that the judge made is a binding decision until it's overturned. So, all of our rights to the end of that road and everything else are all binding until something either gets overturned or agreed upon.
Okay.
So, that being said, we need to call Jeff in and discuss where we're gonna turn and how we're gonna maintain that road, because we should be maintaining it as we always did, but our turnaround now, I think, has to be at the barn where it always was.
I would like to discuss that point with the town lawyer without you there, I wanna recuse you, ask you to sit down and recuse it. Well, I'll set up a meeting between you and myself, the road agent, and the town law attorney, the one who was involved in this case, to at least lead a short discussion, it could be via telephone. And I just wanna talk about, because there's some issues that are brought up, and before I ask anyone for anything or decide anything, I wanna get his opinion on it, and we'll go from there. Bob, I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, if you wanna do that, I'd prefer to do it over the phone too, cause I don't wanna have to pay for his travel time. You know what I mean?
I think that would be at least a starting point before we get into it, because I think if we have a meeting, that Mike would have to be involved in that meeting, because it involves his property too, because
I think having Jeff involved offers in case Jeff has some pertinent
Information.
questions to ask.
Now, one thing I wanna remind you guys that, since that judge made that decision, it's a binding decision till it's overturned.
Right,
That is,
but the thing is,
that is our town road to maintain, so I wanna make sure that you guys don't go asking permission to a homeowner where you don't need to ask, because then it puts you in
I'll leave
liability.
you one gray area right now, and this is the gray area that bothers me more than anything else. There's a discussion on how wide the road should be.
How
And
wide is Kelsey Road?
that's just it, and the thing is, I'm
How
talking about
wide
this,
is Kelsey Road on our layout?
I think it's a 3 rod.
Yep.
But
It's
it is-
49 and a half
is
feet.
it three, the thing is, I think Mike Guiney has a challenge to the road in front of the barn.
That challenge went to court, and we have a decision from the court, says that
Well,
the
and
road-
that's
went to that
that's the
point.
question I'm gonna ask our attorney just to clarify for us.
Yeah.
And so I don't wanna do anything prematurely without having the knowledge. And so we'll leave it at that, and then we have to make a determination of how.
Now, that clarification from our town attorney,
Yes,
it's a town road, that clarification should be open to the public and in writing from him.
mean the meeting?
I don't care about your meeting, I wanna know what our town attorney said.
Oh, absolutely,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely,
absolutely.
absolutely. And because basically it's.
I
not-
want it in writing, cause
It's-
there's no,
Well, we've gone through some gray areas before.
I want it right, and the thing is, and it should be reflective of the decision by the judge.
That also being said, I paid the lion's share of defending the town's rights to Kelsey Road.
Okay, I don't follow that, but go ahead.
You don't follow that?
No, I do not.
The town of Dunbarton sued me as a landowner at the end of Kelsey Road.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put posts in the road, I didn't obstruct the road. The town limited their liability.
And what's your point with this?
My point, you didn't let me finish.
Okay.
You said you didn't agree, and I was in the middle of my stuff. Right now, this is going to Superior Court. I'm still defending the town's rights to that road, even though we had a judge say the Kelsey Road went right down to the front of the barn there where the right-of-way meets it. Okay, so we have a judge's opinion, okay, and he's challenging it, but that opinion is binding. So right now, when this goes through this 1 or 2 year process, I am, again, paying for the defense of the town's portion of Kelsey Road that's in question. A judge has determined that is Kelsey Road. The town should be paying for that defense. In fact, my attorney told me that any other town that he's represented, once a judge has made a decision like that, the town's attorney would get together with him and write a response and a rebuttal back to the judges in reference to the road. In other words, they would start defending the road once the judge made that decision. That hasn't happened, we haven't heard anything, except Mike challenging the width of the road still. The judge determined that Kelsey Road went down attached to the right of way, which would mean Kelsey Road on our layout is 3 rods wide all the way. So,
But there is also a thing concerned of, and I'm just gonna say it for the public, the turnaround is on private property, the turnaround is not it goes beyond 3 rods.
again, Mike, we did use that turnaround. He gave us the road on the original layout. He said that it was used 20 years prior to 1968. and that turnaround was used as well, so the town has the same rights of turnaround as they do with the road.
That's your opinion, I can see the opinion of the, see the interpretation of the judge there. Not the judge, but see if the town attorneys agree with that.
That's right.
And the thing is, because I'm not a legal I don't know all the legals.
I didn't used to be either, but I know them pretty well now.
Because the thing is, it's one thing to clear a road, but is another thing to take away private property for a turnaround, when the turnaround has really nothing to do with declaring a road.
Well, at the end of every road, there's a turnaround for the town. And that turnaround has been used since as long as anybody can remember in this town. Talking with all of the town road agents and all the past people.
And some people would argue that the turnaround was for the convenience of the single homeowner who was out there. That's all it was. It was a convenience for the town, for the homeowner.
And
So,
why-
but the thing is, what we're doing, we're re-litigating the case, and that's not my point.
Rather than you guys going into a discussion or, as to who's right and who's wrong, let's get a determination first, so we got something, cause, I mean,
And Dave said he'd like to
both,
hear
you
that.
both have a
in writing.
mindset right now,
Yeah,
So-
I agree.
I mean.
And so that's why I think it'd be worthwhile to get, and the thing is, if the town should be defending it, then let's make it so.
That's what I mean. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, and I don't mind the public hearing this, it's cost me over $40,000 to defend the town's rights to that road. A judge has made a determination that that is Kelsey Road to the edge of my right of way. I didn't put any posts, I didn't obstruct anybody going the road. That was done in a malicious intent from what was coming out of that court case. And the town should cover those costs to maintain that road. I mean, I shouldn't have to defend it. The town actually sued me, my son, my daughter-in-law, and my family. We did nothing to that road. All we did is went home, just like everybody does from the town of Dunbarton. So,
Okay.
that
Let's leave it at
bridge
that.
needs to be crossed.
I think it's worthwhile pursuing, getting some facts on the table for us, so we can make an informed decision.
And we probably could explain that better, but I'd like to get a final decision.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could clear your mind with some of the thoughts that we have, but I don't think it's worth sharing right now till we've gone through that process.
Okay. Bob, I can do that available next week, when I'll be flexible with your schedule.
Well, just remember that Wednesday, I have a meeting Wednesday in Concord,
And
and Tuesday's election.
I know. So we'll make it as soon as schedules permit. Okay, now I'm gonna bring it back. Bob, if you have anything else for the board.
No, but if you wanna check and see if the availability of the attorney is
So
for
you're saying Tuesday
Friday,
and Wednesdays, no, but maybe Friday?
maybe Friday would be a good time,
Okay.
Just to get it cleared up once and for all.
Well, it'd be nice to clear it up before we meet with Jeff too.
Oh, that's why I don't wanna give any guidance
Do you
up
want,
there.
do you wanna
until
do
we clear.
Thursday as well, or no? So you have an answer for
Yeah, we
Thursday
could do it
night?
Thursday morning, that's fine.
I'm a little bit worried about our town's legal opinion on that end of the road, only because of what I've heard him say since that. So,
Well, we'll take that into consideration.
yeah, I think so.
And there are other issues which we've taken everything with a grain of salt, right? Okay, anything else, Bob? No. To you, Dave.
No, that's all I have.
Lean, bring us up to date.
I have, a couple of things here. The Department of Labor has started the labor audit of the town. They'll be returning next Wednesday to finish up. There was one item that was pointed out to us, which is, related to safety that we did not meet. So the Department of Labor requires that all air compressors over 35 gallons be inspected and filed with the Department of Labor. They did provide me with an inspector's name. The charge for those inspections are $75. But I took liberty of reaching out to Primex, our property liability insurance, and they do provide inspections at no charge. So I have, someone from Travelers Insurance on behalf of Primex coming in to do a courtesy inspection of all of our town buildings to make sure that we're in compliance with the Department of Labor. That he did inform me though that in order to file these reports with the Department of Labor, there will be a charge at the Department of Labor level, which is around $50. So
they got you either way.
they got you either way, but we did save it on the
Pay the
inspection itself.
75, just kidding.
Yeah.
No, but then they have 50 on top of that, so it's still a bargain.
Yeah, so, he'll be coming by, next,
What do we got, one at Jeff's
Wednesday.
and one at the transfer station?
No, one at the fire department I found out, one at, but he also mentioned, this gentleman from Travelers Insurance, that that would also, anything that has forced hot water has some form of compressor. And so he's gonna be checking our heating systems and every building, basically,
Now,
to make sure.
Primex is our insurance company.
Correct, yeah,
So they have a vested interest in making sure it's safe.
right, so they're gonna make sure that we're in compliant. And then they'll fill out all the paperwork that we need to submit to the Department of Labor. And the girl that was in the office this week said she's not exactly sure how often those have to be inspected, but I'll get more information, once we go through the process. To know whether it's an annual thing or biannual or whatever.
Is, the person from Primex gonna be looking at any other type of inspections or just that?
Oh, everything, yeah, they're gonna look at our heating systems, or anything that would be related to, being conforming for this type of business. I did, a follow-up for the roof for the fire department, I contacted Lansing Roofing. They said that they only do commercial roofing, rubber roofs, flat roofs, so they are out. I'm waiting to hear back from the Therian Roofing.
Yeah.
And then I got another, company, Twin Metal Roofing, they're out of Massachusetts, but they do a lot of work in New Hampshire, so I've gotta call into them to check in with me for that, I'm hoping to hear back from them. And that's all I have.
Did the siding,
Public today, right?
did the siding go, does the siding get changed at all yet on the,
No,
No,
they're
not till
scheduled for like the
December,
first
right?
week of December.
Because what we could do, you know, we wanted to let that extra dollars go out towards the backside, that we wanna do it this year if possible, at least, we could commit the money this year.
Right.
I will have,
Oh, we're gonna check our totals left.
I did some I encumbered some funds today for the bills that we have not paid that are committed.
For Tuttle.
Yeah. Tuttle, the painting at the transfer station, cause Woody wanted some things repaired. I've got an email out to him to ask him if it's been done. And then the signs, I encumbered those funds, so I'll be able to give you a true reading of what we have for next week.
There's a few odds and ends we can still execute this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mostly odds.
I was going for the evens. Okay,
I am gonna, work on Cohen and get Peter to get us that too. I have not done that, so
okay.
I'll put a note down.
Yeah, what about Jeff? Did Jeff say anything about that?
He did, I probably should give him another ring too.
Just so, you know, if we want, from an engineer's standpoint, is wood an option? Because that could make it a little bit easier.
Sure would.
We've been toying with that for too long.
But I think you're getting pretty late into the year where he may look at it and give us a recommendation, and we may have to do something out of the next budget, cause it'd be too late to encumber funds
Oh, yeah.
without knowing what the cost is, cause if it comes in over 10 grand,
It's a
then
bid.
we gotta put out an RFP.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, we don't have probably that much left in there anyway.
no.
I'd say it's a little over 15, but not.
So we might have enough to do the siding, at least get it out of the way, and
Yeah, that
it
was
would
the
be
same
on the books for
Like
next
you
year.
said while he's there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm waiting for a motion, John.
Oh.
Is that
Motion
time?
to adjourn.
8:22. I'll second Bob's motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.